This episode of Drawn to It podcast is brought to you by Cat Animation Online Art School, offering their students high-quality mentoring by experienced, caring professionals in animation, story design, and much more at very affordable prices. Beginning and advanced classes and mentoring slots for the spring semester of 2021 are forming now. Don't miss the opportunity to learn and grow from Disney-trained animators and artists currently working in the animation industry. Visit www.cat-animation.com for details about their unique school, their distinguished faculty, and how to apply for future classes or mentoring. They look forward to working with you in the near future. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. It's another Monday, time for another podcast. Today's guest, legendary 2D animator Sandro Cleuzo, talks about how he got started growing up in Brazil and the struggles he found in trying to find the right mentor in animation. Right here on Drawn to It podcast.
Drawn to it, sketching doodles in your textbooks. In the corners, making animation flip books. Writing stories, then turn them into comics. Shucks, get out the clay, I'm a sculpt Garth Brooks. It doesn't matter how you create, cause you're drawn to it, drawn to it. It only matters you create when you're drawn to it, drawn to it. Get creative and flex imagination.
And if you're ready, I got my first question for you.
Sure, yeah, let's go.
All right, cool. So I'm very curious as to, I mean, I'm sure you've been asked 100 times, but I've never found the story, how you go from your high school education into animation, because you learned, where do you live? Where did you learn?
When I started learning, I was in Brazil. I'm Brazilian.
Right.
I was in São Paulo, Brazil, and that was a long time ago in the 80s, early 80s.
Yeah, and Brazil doesn't stand out as a hotbed of animation learning to
Exactly.
compared to, you always hear about California, CalArts, or in Canada, Sheridan, that, you know. But yeah, that's fascinating. Could you break it down a bit?
Sure. It's very interesting because we're talking about a time where there was no internet, right? There's no...
Yeah.
I mean, access to books or anything on animation was like impossible. And okay, my story is very complicated because I started very young. I was 14 when I started learning animation and also drawing in general. And I started professionally when I was 15. And I say professionally because I started getting paid for doing this, right? So if you're getting paid for doing the work, you're a professional. It's
right.
Like professional. So I started doing, when I was a kid, I always drew, right? Like every kid draws. What happens is some kids stop drawing when they grow up, and some kids continue. And so I always drawing. And when I was very young, I had no idea you could do animation, right? Especially in Brazil, you know.
Right.
So I was like doing comic books. Comic books was something that was more accessible. I knew people drew that in Brazil. There's a studio in Brazil. There was a studio at the time. They did comics. So that I knew people worked doing comics. So I was doing comics, my own comics. I used to buy comics, copying them, creating my own characters. I'm talking about when I was, 11, 12, 13. And then what happened was when I was around 14, I was at school. I finished my test. I had to do a test. And I finished earlier than everybody. So I had my comic books in with me. So everybody was doing their tests. And I was kind of fast, and I finished and started drawing my comics, right? While I was waiting. And my teacher, she came by, and my geography teacher, I remember that, geography teacher, she came by, she saw, said, "Hey, Sandro, can I borrow your comics?" Because I used to do like the whole book, like cover, just like a comic book, all the stores. So I had a feeling, so I just gave to her. She wanted to borrow.
Yeah.
And, I was 14. I never worked anywhere. So I was kind of, kid. You don't know anything, right?
Yeah.
What I didn't know was that she sent my comics to this comic book creator. He's like a Walt Disney in Brazil. He's very popular in Brazil. He has like very popular characters, even to this day. He had like animation films done. He had comics, very popular comics in Brazil. Merchandising everywhere. He had a theme park once, very big. Even to this, he has the biggest studio in Brazil. And the dream of any cartoonist or artist is to work for him.
Yeah.
So my teacher sent to him without me knowing, and I got a call. We got a call to meet the creator, the boss, the big guy.
Yeah.
His name is Mauricio de Souza, very famous.
Yeah.
So they invited us in. My teacher, went with me, and we met him, and we spoke very briefly, like 5 minutes, because he's a very busy guy.
Yeah.
And he signed a poster for one of the movies.
That's so cool.
And then he said, we can offer you like internship. You can come here and learn to do comics, the way we do. So I was very happy. And we're talking about the biggest, the most important studio that does comic books in Brazil. Right?
Yeah.
Very famous. So I started learning. I started going there after school. I would go take a bus in the subway, and go all the way to the studio and start learning comics. And it was great. I was 14 at the time. You could do that, at that age.
So were you doing life drawing with them? And
not really. No. The internship was, we had a room with, I remember two other young guys. And they would give us original pages from the comics, and we were supposed to copy and practice composition, the characters. So it was like copying the page.
Right.
So that was my training at the beginning. I never went to school for drawing and animation, right? I'm self-taught.
Wow.
So what happened was, because I drew every day, I used to draw watching cartoons on TV and copying, I remember, like Woodpecker, very popular. Yeah. And I used to copy, and I could draw kind of well because I used to draw from TV.
Yeah.
So that was, going back to the comic books, that was my beginning of kind of learning professionally.
That's amazing.
And then what happened was, I'll explain the link to animation.
Yeah.
I met there was this lady there, and she was working in the animation department, which I didn't know they had it, an animation department for the company. Wow. It was a separate building. It was a building like three or four blocks away from the building I was. I had no idea they had the animation department. So, and I started talking to her, and she said, yeah, if you want to go, I can take you there and show you. So during lunchtime, she took me to the animation department that they had. And I was like, wow, that was the first time I saw the animation disc.
Yeah.
The animation.
Yeah, like you had no idea how the art form was done or anything when you went there. You just knew it was about drawing, but.
Yes, I had a little idea because in Brazil at the time, they used to show on TV this program called Magic Lantern about animation. Right. And I remember one of the episodes, they showed the Disney Studios, and they showed the animators on the desk. I knew that they had that, because I saw the TV show. But going to the studio was the first time I saw in person, like real, And I remember but there was nobody in the studio because everybody was outside having lunch. It was empty. But she took a stack of drawings and started flipping. And the character was moving. It was like, wow, that's what I want to do. I want to do this,
Yeah.
And then I was fascinated by the whole thing. And then
at that point, does the idea of doing comic books like drop way down when you see actual
Yeah.
characters moving around and stuff?
That's what
Yeah.
happened to me. That's what.
Yeah.
No more comics. I want to do this. The characters are, it's a drawing on the paper, and the character is moving. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then she took him back to the studio, the comic book department, so I could continue. But before going upstairs to our room, she took me to this another floor. She took me to this guy. He was like a lawyer, like a management. You can see. I remember he had like lawyer books. You know, he had like a suit. You know, with the tie. Not an artist, right?
Yeah.
And I remember I was 14, never worked before. I was very stupid,
Unbelievable.
Right?
Yeah.
So she took me there and said, "Hey, I don't remember the guy's name." She said to him, "Sandro wants to work in animation." And the guy just said, "I'm not kidding." This guy just said, "Just hire him," just like that. I was like, okay, maybe that's how it works. I don't know. I never worked before.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went back to my room to continue my comic book drawings. And then after like a few hours, the management of the comic book department came over and said, "Sandro, I want to talk to you." And at the time, she was married to the creator, to the big boss. She was like really powerful. Well, we're talking about powerful people here.
Yeah.
She took me, she was very nice before, but she took me and said, she had like an office, and everybody was in an open room, right? Everybody would work in an very open space. And she had her office, and she closed the door, and she sat down and said, I know you're not happy here. I understand you're not happy here. You want to work in animation. And she started screaming at me, really mad.
Oh, wow.
It was like, I was like, what did I do? I didn't.
And you're
didn't
only 14. Oh, man.
14. And I didn't ask for anything. I didn't ask for the job in animation. This lady went to this other guy, asked the guy if Sandro wants to work in animation. So she found out that she was very upset because they had she was training me. They were training me in comics. And they had this rival kind of thing between animation, in comics.
Yeah.
So what happened was that she fired me. I was fired.
Oh my goodness.
I was fired. I was very upset.
So you were hired and fired in the same day?
No, not the same day. I was there already for a few weeks.
Yeah, but he says hire him for animation, and then a few hours later, you're fired from animation.
I was fired from the whole studio, from the whole thing.
Jeez.
And then I was so upset. Everybody was. I remember she was screaming at me, and when I left, everybody was quiet. Working away. Nobody would talk to me. So I went home and I didn't tell my parents. I was very scared because how can I do this? How can I have this chance to be in the best studio, and I screwed up the whole thing. So I didn't tell my parents. I was very scared. So the next day I went back there and I sat down very early. I waited for her to arrive, to beg from work again, back, And she saw me. She came in. She said, "Sandro, what you are doing here? I fired you. Just go." I said, "No, give me a chance. I want to. No, I'm sorry for what happened. No. You're too young to be here. Just go." So I went back home. I told my parents. My dad called her and said, "Hey, listen, he's just a kid. He never worked. Just give him a chance." But she was very mad. She said, "No. When he grows up, maybe he can come back. But no." But for me, Brian, was the best thing that ever happened. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. I went upstairs to say goodbye to some people, and this lady, for me, I call her an angel because I don't remember, to this day, I don't remember her face.
Right.
I don't remember her name. I don't know who she is, but she came to me and said, "Sandro, here's a phone number. Call this number. It's the best animation studio in Brazil. Call this number." So I just took the paper with the name of the studio and the telephone number, and then I went back home and I started drawing, practicing animation. By the time I bought the Preston Blair book, I was already like practicing. I prepared a little portfolio with some animation, very very crude, nothing. A few things copied from Preston Blair, very crude.
I think we're all guilty of that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's how I learned. So I
Yeah.
called the number and I had a few scenes animated. So
Yeah.
called that number that the lady gave me, and I made this appointment, and I went there to show my work. And the owner, he hired me right away. He said, "Okay, I'll give you an internship also. You can learn here." So I didn't know at the time, but that was the best studio where the best animators in Brazil at the time would work for. Like very high quality, like
Yeah.
TV commercials, not feature films or TV series, only TV commercials. At the time,
Right.
TV commercials in animation were big.
Yeah. And very high quality. Like
Very
you
high
said, they
quality.
were done at that feature film level.
Yeah, like full
Yeah.
animation.
Yeah.
So I started. So in the very first day, I remember. So she took me. I mean, they took me into this room, and they had two other guys really working hard on this commercial.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have anything to give me, and I was like, I had to learn. Nobody would do anything. I was like, I was just there, and this guy gave to me, okay, try to do this in between here. They gave me two extremes from the commercial.
Yeah.
So I sat there and I did it, and then the guy came over to check it out, and he said, "Oh wow, it works. Hey, here's some more." So I started working on the commercial the first day.
So cool.
So,
Wow.
so that's how I started learning. I learned on the job.
Yeah.
And I never had a mentor or never went to school. I just learned doing it.
That's incredible. I think a lot of people would probably prefer to have learned that way. I mean, there is something to be said about going to a college and the more so for the fact that you share a foxhole with your peers and it's there you form bonds that kind of last your whole career in a college. But I think when you have the opportunity to learn on the job under a superior artist, I mean, that learning process is just so much more focused and rapid. I truly wish that I had experienced something like that because I got goosebumps just hearing that. I love hearing stories where just, there was this catastrophe, but it led to this amazing thing. And without that happening, this never would have happened.
Exactly.
It's funny how life works out that way. Now, how long did it take you to advance from in-betweening to like a junior animator or animating full?
Yeah, it didn't take too long. It took me maybe I started animating commercials after a year or so, like small commercials, small, because they had like big clients, right?
Yeah.
Coca-Cola, I mean the big clients. But also they had smaller projects for regional places, something small. They would give to me something simple to animate. But also at the time, which I didn't know, I was never. That's why I never had a mentor, because the animators at the time were very few, not many.
Mm-hmm.
The best animators, they would dominate the whole industry there because all the studios would hire them. They were not like in-house. They were like freelancers.
Right.
So they took jobs everywhere. So they would dominate. They would make so much money because they were like the only guys doing it. And then they see this kid advancing and they don't like it, Yeah. So what happened was nobody taught me. And I was very disappointed because I love these guys. I remember I couldn't wait for them to be at the studio so I could talk to them or show them something but they never sat down to show me anything. And the way I learned from them was by in-betweening their work. And by doing cleanup on their works. I would flip and study, try to understand the charts, the timing. Because they never sat down, to teach me. And I was very disappointed because they were really good animators, top people.
Wow.
And I remember somebody telling me, which is, it makes me feel sad, at the same time, it makes me feel a little, wow, kind of special, because they had a meeting in a restaurant, all the animators, to talk about me, to say, hey, we're not supposed to teach Sandro because he might take our jobs in that studio, you know.
Right.
That's the mentality, which is like, what? How can you do this to a kid, you know?
Who knew you were so powerful so young?
I know.
Such a threat.
It's a threat, right? But the thing is, I didn't draw that well. I didn't know much, you know. But I was advancing because I was really focused, you know.
Right.
So slowly, but again, that's why I never had anybody teaching me. So I would learn by myself, and also freezing frame, with getting the Disney films on VHS at the time, right?
Yeah.
But before that, I had the Super 8. Did you have that, Super 8?
No, I didn't have Super 8. I had the struggle of trying to freeze frame with VHS and fix the tracking to try to get the perfect image so I could see what was happening.
Yeah.
So until when I got to college, I blew half of my student loan on probably the world's most expensive VCR that had a frame-by-frame button on the remote.
Yeah.
And I remember my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, we got in the biggest fight, and I'm like, you don't understand. I need this.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I remember in Brazil was this kind of VCR was only imported from the US.
Yeah.
So you had to find somebody who would travel to the West to bring it. Very expensive. But somehow I managed to buy one to study it. So that's how I learned, by studying first frame by frame and working over the animator's drawings. You know?
Yeah.
It's only doing small commercials.
That sounds like an uphill battle the whole way. I mean, it's great that you're exposed to really well-drawn keys and animation, but without a mentor to really walk you through it step by step, why they made the decisions they did. Maybe this pose presented this silhouette that worked better with the composition of the background, whatever. Like you're there, you have to analyze everything yourself, and you're kind of shooting in the dark. And I guess it would just be trial and error on your part.
Totally.
That would be,
Totally.
Wow.
That's what I wanted. I want somebody to show me. I remember I remember this very vividly. One time, one of the top guys, he drew he animated like Disney guys, like really well, drew really well. And he came over and I asked him, hey, his name was Alexander, whatever. I said, hey, Alexander, can you show me this, how to, you know? And he sat down very like, oh man, what do you want? And he started drawing. There were some people talking there. He would be looking at them and not giving attention to me. He was not, didn't care, you know. So that was the attitude. And I remember as an in-betweener, in between this animator's scene, and again, I was learning. I didn't know much. So he did this guy swimming, right? He's swimming, you know. But I was supposed to do a breakdown, not in between. I didn't know that. Like when you did the arms, I had to do the arms straight before, you know, doing the arc. So I just in between the arc like this. I didn't know I had to do this, the one straight. Yeah. And you look at that, it's like, you don't know anything. You don't know how to draw. You don't know this. You should be fired. That's the attitude I was under.
Oh my God. I don't know how you manage to go every day. I mean, your desire to learn had to overcome so much. Like most people, when they feel they're not wanted, they don't show up again, right?
Yeah, but I was lucky in a way because my boss was very nice to me. He knew, he understood. He understood that I was learning. He liked me. Yeah. I remember this guy who told me, "Oh, you don't know how to draw. I'm gonna tell to the boss to fire you." Yeah, I was very scared, but my boss never fired me because he knew, this guy, you know. Yeah. Of course, he's learning. He liked me. He gave me a chance. So I'm very grateful for him, even to this day.
Yeah. I mean, without him sort of protecting you. Holy cow.
That was the atmosphere I was.
That's amazing. That's a fantastic story. It sounds like you've got a book in you that you could write on, the struggles of, man. That's crazy. So how long until you end up working on your first feature film?
Yes. Again, for me, that's why I think life is so, everything's linked, right?
Yeah.
From the comic book, like I was department, I had this lady who gave me this number to call this studio, which was the best studio. That's where I learned, right?
Yeah.
And I did after 4 years, I decided, I was already animating commercials, right? I was like 4 years working there in that studio.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, the next step is doing acting. I want to do acting. I want to do animation, like Disney animation, like characters in a film. Because in a commercial, it's like the characters jumping in and show the product, there's not much acting, there's a little.
Yeah.
But so you want to go further. You want to make the character think, So I decided I need to focus now to go to the US. I want to go to Disney and then I saw The Secret of NIMH for the first time.
Yeah.
Don Bluth,
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? It wasn't Disney, because I remember at the beginning, Aurora Productions, and there's no Disney in there, but it was like as beautiful as a Disney film.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I couldn't believe that film. I remember seeing VHS. And then I said, I want to do this. That's what I want to do. And then I started learning that who Don Bluth was, what the story. A few magazines would arrive in Brazil, and I would try to, understand English, and so I started learning about them, right? And then one day at the studio I was working at, there was this producer, this lady. She had a book about Don Bluth, like Don Bluth in Ireland, Dublin, Ireland.
Yeah.
It's a booklet to give to people, because they were hiring people at the time, so people could see what they do, what they did at the studio, all the departments. I was like, wow, that's the people I want to work for.
Yeah.
I remember in the back there was the address of the studio in Dublin, Ireland, and I was like, wow, okay, this I made a copy of that, Xerox.
Mm-hmm.
And then for 1 year, my focus was to go work for Don Bluth. So what I did, I was in Brazil, right? No internet, nothing. So what I did was preparing my portfolio for 1 year. So every day I would do drawings, exchange drawings, put drawings back again, doing some animation, some drawings, and then saving my money too. I couldn't save a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because I didn't make a lot of money. So I could save like $100 every month.
Right.
So I was able to, at the end of the year, I was able to buy a plane ticket to Ireland. And I had maybe $1,000, maybe I had with the money in a portfolio, like those original portfolios, the leather, bound.
Yeah.
Traditional, all the drawings, and no life drawings, okay? Because I didn't know you had to do life drawings. Because again, I didn't go to school for drawing. I learned on the job, and nobody told me, oh, you have to do life drawings. Nobody told me that. Sketches. I just did animation drawings. So my portfolio was basically a design, in the style of Don Bluth or Disney. That's what I had. So I flew over to Dublin without them knowing. They didn't know I was going there. I was 19.
You just showed up as a cold call. You just walked in.
I was 19. First time I left home.
Yeah.
My parents were like, my mother was devastated because I was going to another country. I never had left home. So, but anyway, I went to Dublin, to Ireland. I had a friend with me who was in animation too. He asked me, Sandro, can I go with you? I said, yeah, of course. It's even better, I won't have to go home. So he came with me to try. So I remember going to the studio, and we went to the reception, and we didn't know English, right? Much.
Right.
And so we start trying to make them understand. We wanted to show our work to Don Bluth and work there, and blah blah blah. And they said, no, it doesn't work this way. You have to go back home and send your portfolio to us. If you like, we tell you. No.
Wow.
We are here right now.
Yeah.
And they couldn't understand. They called this lady, a Canadian lady, actually. I remember her. And she had a dictionary, a Spanish dictionary. But we don't speak Spanish. We speak Portuguese. But that's what they had. So she started trying to help, and I was a big mess. But the thing is, we had to beg, please, you want to show our work to Don Bluth, and they would say, no, just go home, just go to, well, we are here, And then after like 1 hour, they said, okay, just come back tomorrow, okay?
Right.
So we went back to the hotel, very depressed, like, oh man, sleep, What's gonna happen? So the next day we went back there, the same thing. No, go to Brazil, and no, we are here. And then Don Bluth came in. He said hi. We froze. Me and my friend, we froze. We didn't see anything. He came in and got in. And I told my friend, hey, he's here. Don Bluth is here. We saw him.
Get him.
Yeah, and then we begged more, and then the lady said, okay, just wait here. And took our portfolios there. And after like a few minutes, they say, hey, come in. And we're like, oh, we're gonna go in, We went to the fourth floor, I remember. And Don Bluth had the portfolios open, And we went there and introduced him, to Don Bluth, and said, oh, who is this portfolio here? Well, because it was me and my friends, right?
Yeah.
I said, oh, this is mine. This is mine. And he said, you're gonna be an animator. And he hired me right away. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
Because I thought, well, we're going to start as the cleanup artist, or rough in between there, to move up the ladder. Yeah. But he hired me as an animator right away.
Wow.
And my friend, he was hired as my assistant, which I never used assistants. So for me, it's like whatever, we're hired.
So your portfolio, did it include a demo reel, or was it just drawings?
Just drawing. What I had was only one scene that he could flip. That's what I had.
Right.
I think I don't know. I think the fact that we were young, we came all the way from South America.
Yeah.
With our own money, and somehow I had some of the style of the Dom, a little bit of the style.
Yeah.
I mean, he just took a chance on us. That's why Don Bluth is another, for me, I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
To give him my first chance in feature animation.
It is amazing the amount of brick walls you've come up to in your career, and just determination, and you bust right through them. You take the chances that a lot of people who maybe would know a little more maybe might reason in their head, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it this way. Yeah. But because you didn't know, you had a confidence of taking a chance because you had nothing to lose, and just let's try it. That's incredible.
I didn't have a plan B anyway, so I was like,
yeah. Well, that's an interesting point. A lot of people, when you talk to people who are chasing their dreams, there's this sort of idealization of, well, never have a plan B. And, a lot of people subscribe to that way of thinking. And then most parents always tell their kids, well, go to school, learn how to be an accountant, so you have that to fall back on, and then do what you want to do, right? And I'm a parent of 4, and I find in my own head, I was a dream chaser growing up, so I never had a plan B. But now I'm a parent, and I feel compelled to try to make my kids have a plan B. But I don't know if that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know either. Maybe it is, but I'm not sure.
Well, I think you're proof that it's not the right thing to do. So I'm going to change my whole parenting tactic now, and it's your fault.
But Brian, maybe I was lucky to because think about what if I had gone there.
Yeah.
What if Don Bluth wasn't there at the time? What if he was in LA doing recording, which he did sometimes?
Yeah.
Would be a different story, right?
Well, I mean, this brings the question up. Do you believe in fate, serendipity, coincidence? If one thing doesn't happen, the next you know, it impacts the next possible part of your future. And yeah, that, I mean, just for him to walk in like that, if that
Yeah,
hadn't happened,
that's
that's
true.
incredible. So what was the film he hired you on?
Yeah, that was the one that many. I mean, it's not the best, the greatest film, but for me, it's special because of my first film as an animator,
Yeah.
a feature film. It's called
Yeah.
A Troll in Central Park.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like the best story they ever did, but for me, it was like I didn't care. You know, for me, it was like I was doing this. I was working on a feature, so I was very happy about that. And one thing that I remember telling people at Disney when I was there, because Disney is a different story. The very first shot it gave me to do was a close-up, which at Disney you never get a close-up when it started. You never. You get the background characters, or because they don't know you, right? Yeah. So they don't give me like a close-up. It's like, wow, of the kid. He was. I remember he was crying in that scene, and I had live action reference, and I used in a way I didn't trace. I just push it, the poses more. That's what he wanted. I think he was trying me. Yeah. And I remember he said, "Yeah, this is great. You pushed the live action. Yeah, perfect. I approved." I was like, wow. Yeah. And yeah. So there was Tron Central Park was the first one, and
that's yeah, because you're right. I mean, when you're just starting out, they want to push your work far away from the camera, usually. Yeah. Right. So to get a close up.
Yeah, for me, it's a close up. Yeah.
Yeah. No pressure.
I started getting very good scenes, very good shots, and one thing that was kind of weird to me. Okay, I had a few heroes at the time, like people who worked with Don Bluth, like John Pomeroy. I remember you had him on your show.
Yeah.
He was he's like a big hero, you know.
Yeah.
And then I had learned he did the Big Owl. The best scenes were his. And then there was Linda Miller who did The Crow. And a few other stars. And I was like, I want to work with these people, but they're not there. They were all in the U.S. They had a small studio in the U.S. Many people had left, and I didn't know that. So I was like, most of the crew was like young, like green or younger, or not the best top people.
Right.
So what happened was because of that, my work kind of stood out, and Gary Goldman was sending people to me so I could draw over them.
Wow.
Which was like, I just got there, you know. So I'm sure many people didn't like it, but I didn't know anything. I was like, whatever. I drew, you know. Yeah. I can draw this, and I just helped some people, but that was like my heroes were not there. So I want to learn from them, and they're not there. You know, it's the same thing. Like, I never get to work with these people. But anyway, I'm glad that Don Bluth was my supervising animator. I mean, he was the director of the whole thing, but he also took me as a supervising animator to help me out.
That's awesome. Now, the whole time you're working on the feature film, and you're surrounded by animators who are willing to share information now. They're not having secret meetings to figure out how to get you fired.
Yeah.
Right. Do you feel at all like, what is the secret sauce I'm missing that I've never been taught? Who do I ask to find out that, maybe you were already doing everything because you had taught yourself, but you didn't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I didn't know, and I was doing things that I didn't know I was doing. I was doing right, but I didn't have because I didn't learn from somebody.
Right.
I was thinking that's how it should be done.
Right. And did you pick up bad habits that they had to break you from?
Don't remember. No, I don't. Not really. No, they never.
No.
They always let me alone doing the process. Okay, one thing was the only thing I used to draw with graphite, and Gary Goldman told me, no, I have to draw with blue, because here we use blue first, and then the cleanup part is gonna go over your drawing and clean up. So the blue doesn't show on Xerox, right?
Yeah.
I just had to switch that, but bad habits, I don't remember having any, was the process was much similar, you know.
Right.
One thing I learned, Brian, was which I didn't do before, was planning my scenes before.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You just jump in and start animating.
Yeah.
There's no time to plan. In feature animation, you have to think about your scene, right? You plan it. So I learned. That's what I learned. Oh, okay. Now the character is thinking, so you have to think about what's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
Why your shot is so important, you know, in the sequence. Why is important the shot? It has to work with the other shots too.
Right.
So it made me start planning my shots.
Right. And in your planning process, are you a small thumbnailer or do you draw large thumbnails?
No, small thumbnails.
Yeah.
Very rough.
Same with when I had Ron Husband on, he was talking about that as his process too. Now, to contradict that, I just had James Lopez on, and he prefers to draw very large thumbnails and then just use them as an underdrawing to do the final pose.
That's fine too. I know Eric Goldberg doesn't do thumbnails. I know James Baxter doesn't do it much. Many people don't do it.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't know if you agree, but for me, it doesn't matter. For me, the result is what's important. Whatever way you do it, you know, the result is the important thing. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I do thumbnails, but I tend to do them large. Mm-hmm. And like very few lines at first, you know, just a little bit more than a stick figure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And, you know, but yeah, some people prefer the real detailed small thumbnails and really work it out that way. And I think either approach, like you said, it's the end result. You know, that's what matters.
I'm fascinated by other people's method. I remember Duncan Marjoribanks. He used to do very detailed thumbnails, and he could just enlarge those small drawings. And those were the keys.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible, you know.
How do you transition from working with the Bluth crew into the Disney environment? And did you find it intimidating, more intimidating than the Bluth crew, or was it sort of more of the same and just another opportunity?
No, it was more. I don't know if intimidated. I never felt that way. I just felt like, oh, okay, there's some really good people here that you kind of have to, you know, raise your quality because of this. I mean, you want to please these people too, these top animators, because they're going to be the ones hiring you for their teams. Mm-hmm. So it's just like the level, it was very high there, more than the Bluth people at the time. But for me, yes, at the time. But what happened was after I spent 4 years, no more, 5 years with Bluth, or 6 years maybe. What happened was I was very happy there, right, in Ireland, working there, and then the studio wasn't doing well financially, and they had some problems. So it's a long story, but and after a few, the kind of movies they were making, I don't know what happened to Don, but the stories were not really amazing anymore. The character designs were not great, and then what he started doing was shooting live action for every scene reference, and he would shoot in a way that, just like a live action director. He would, like, with camera movements and all. We were supposed to use that all the time, and I was kind of tired after a while. And then I remember they moved to Arizona when Fox Animation started there. Yeah. And they moved the whole studio there, and to do Anastasia, right? So I went along with them, and Anastasia is a great film, but for me it was more of the same. Taking the live action stats and use it, you know, we couldn't do much. And I was doing mostly Anastasia herself. Oh, okay. And I was kind of tired of doing live action again. I mean, working over live action. And then I remember I was not very happy. I was like, I want to move on, because you always want to move on as an artist. what's the next step? You know,
Right.
If me,
Right.
Disney was the place where I could try to do the animation the way I saw in my head, the way I
Yeah.
wanted. So I was planning to go to Disney. So I started preparing a portfolio again to go to Disney. And then I remember during Anastasia, before the end of Anastasia, I sent my portfolio in. They hired. I mean, they said, yeah, we can hire you. We want to hire you. So
Yeah.
I just told them I'm leaving, and I went to Disney. And
And
what made me very like, okay, that's the right thing to do. We had a meeting with Don and supervising animators. It
yeah.
was Don Bluth, Gary Goldman, the supervising animators, to decide about the next movie after Anastasia. And they were talking about, at the time, they were talking about The King and I, you know, the classic story.
Yeah.
Everybody was talking about this, and I was quiet there because I was a supervising animator already. You know,
Yeah.
I was a directing animator on Anastasia, so I was there. But I knew I was going to Disney. I didn't care much because I was leaving. And then I was quiet, everybody talking, and then one guy, I don't remember who, asked me, Sandro, what do you think? And Don was right there. You know, I mean, nothing against Don. I love Don. He gave him a chance. I loved him.
Yeah.
Just like as an artist, I was talking as an artist, as an animator, as an artist.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? There's nothing we can do about the story. We're not animators. We're not involved with the story. But how fun is going to be to animate on it? Are we going to have live action again? Don was very mad. He said, "Oh, you're saying this because you don't know how to work with live action." It was like, oh, the big. And I said, you know what? Milt Kahl didn't like to use live action too. And I said, yeah, you're right. He didn't like it. But my point was, why you cannot do something fun and more animated like Disney does? Why do you have to follow live action? Never film. That's my point. You know? So anyway, that's what the day that made me okay. I'm doing the right thing to go to Disney. You know.
Yeah. So when you left, did that create a rift between you and Don Bluth?
Yeah, it did. And with Gary too. I remember Gary very upset. He was very upset. But today we're friends. I mean,
good.
We're okay now. But at the time he wasn't very happy because I left before the end of Anastasia.
Right.
And you know, I just had to move on, and I just had to do it. You know, and I went to Disney for less money, to be honest. I didn't care. I didn't care for the money. I just wanted to do the animation the way I wanted to do. You know.
Yeah.
And
what was the film you got hired on for Disney?
Well, it was a Fantasia 2000.
Yeah.
And you were talking. You remember this? Did you see the movie Fantasia 2000?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember the last sequence, the Firebird.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm talking about coming from Anastasia, following the stats, to that creature who's organic and change forms and morphs. It was totally opposite, you know.
Yeah.
So that one I had to use my imagination.
Didn't John Pomeroy work on that as well?
Yeah. I saw John there. I was like, because last time I saw him was in Ireland when he was with Don Bluth years ago.
Yeah.
And he was there. He was doing the lava, the Firebird. And I was with the team doing the sprite, the green sprite.
Yeah. And
I had some scenes together with him. He would do the lava, I would do the sprite.
Yeah.
So there was a totally the opposite of Don Bluth. You know, like this character here, we have to use your imagination.
Yeah.
There's no live action reference. You know, you just create. You know.
Yeah, it'd be much more satisfying artistically to work that way. And how was it getting into the Disney crew? Were you able to gel with them very well, or did you feel like you were an outsider? Were they like, "Oh, you're a Bluth guy"? Well, okay, that's an important thing to know. You know, they had if you tell them you were from Bluth, it would be a problem, right? Yeah. In my portfolio, I didn't include any Bluth scenes. Oh, really? Yeah. Loophole. What I did? Because I knew they didn't like the Bluth. Because you talk to people, start learning, things. So what I did was I did my own personal scenes, right? Right. For a portfolio. So my reel didn't have Bluth scenes from the Bluth films.
only personal shots.
Yeah.
In the portfolio, the traditional portfolio, I had some life drawings, which I was
Yeah.
doing by then, in
Yeah.
sketches and designs. And my reel was all personal scenes. And I was lucky I was hired based on that.
Yeah. Wow.
Because
And
I remember talking to, John Musker.
yeah. Well,
I remember
I don't know him. I know of him.
of him, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember talking to him and telling him I did that. He said, "Oh, Sandro, I think you're very clever not to put any Bluth scenes because they don't like the over
Yeah.
there,
Yeah. Now,
So
can I ask you, do you agree with their prejudice towards Don Bluth films? Because it seems to me Don Bluth has a really nice aesthetic to his movies, and a high level of artistry is required to pull them off. But I feel like Disney would just have that grudge against Bluth because of the whole exodus from, the early 80s type thing.
maybe I totally agree with you. I think I never understood why they hated them so much. I never understood that. I remember one top animator who's today he's a director. I'm not gonna say who he is, but he gave a lecture at Disney, which I have I saw on tape because it was before I went there. A lecture to show people what's bad animation,
right,
compared to good animation, and he showed scenes from them as bad animation. I was like, what? Why would you do that? I mean, I was very disappointed with him.
Yeah, so that sounds very very subjective, first of all, and very vindictive.
Yes,
and which is unfortunate.
I just didn't like that. So I don't agree at all, because if you look at Don's films, especially Neem and Fievel, those American Tail, and they had amazing not only animation but visually is beautiful, art direction is amazing, special effects. It's incredible. The backgrounds just top notch.
I've always had a big appreciation for Don Bluth stuff. I am a Disney fan, but Don Bluth, I sort of include that in my love of animation and who I look up to because of the visuals. I agree there are certain films where the story, just kind of didn't feel right, but there are visuals that still make it worth looking at and appreciating.
I agree.
But so after Fantasia and getting to work with John Pomeroy again on something so inspiring and satisfying, what project do you go on to after that?
After Fantasia, one thing I didn't know, many people don't know this, but what they had at the time, I don't know if today is different. I don't know. I have no idea. At the time, they had something called, they used this baseball way of saying baseball trading. That's what they used to call. What I meant is that you had to show your reel to another production to get hired.
Okay.
So even though you were inside, it was like you were looking for jobs. Because it's funny. I didn't know. I just thought, well, you finish this, you go to the next, right? No. They had like three or four projects, and they would do like an open house to show the project, and then you have to talk to people, and then directors, they have to like your work, or like you, or somebody has to refer your work to them to get hired. I didn't know that, so I had to prepare a portfolio again. Actually a reel, not portfolio, reel with my scenes from Fantasia and also personal scenes to show to the next project, and that's how it was,
Man, I am so glad I didn't know any of your story when I was a student in college, because as a student, you think, oh, I'm just going to take my demo reel and get hired by Disney. Here I go, right? And here you are, you're 6 years out of working with Don Bluth, and you work on a feature film for Disney. You're still going through that portfolio grind. It just would have been so disheartening as a student to know that.
No, it's not good to say that.
Well, I think it's a little bit different now. I mean, politics, studio politics, they keep changing with the new guard, right? So, but I think it's a little bit different now. Once you get in and you just, I think now it's more of you just got to keep showing you're capable and you're eager to learn, right? Because they're always changing with the new greatest tool that comes out, right? Yeah. Wow. So what film did you land on? Did they accept you on?
Yeah. Well, what happened was the directors of the sequence I worked on Fantasia, they referred me to Roger Allers for he was working on The Kingdom in the Sun at the time, which became The Emperor's New Groove, right?
Yeah.
But at the beginning it was a totally different story, different film, epic. They had like a lot of the top people working on that, Andreas Deja and Nick Ranieri was there, working on that.
Yeah. So
I was referred to the, by them, and they hired me to work as an animator. But again, I was new, nobody knew who I was. So I was, they gave me like background characters to do.
Right.
People in the bar, there was a bar scene and people there serving food and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what I did, Brian, was that I didn't care. It was a background scene. I just did as if there were scenes, like important scenes.
Right.
So
no small roles.
No.
Right.
every character for me in there, I remember like 10 characters. Every character was a personality for me. So, and then they noticed it. They noticed that. And I remember Nick Ranieri, he told me, he said, "Hey, what you're doing with this background characters, like, no, people just do whatever, but you're just doing like main characters." He was very impressed. And Nick asked me to join his team on he had a little character with a little rock called the Huaca. It was a little rock character with a very deep voice and a very, very, he didn't like the character, but for me it was like, wow, it's Nick Ranieri, So I started working with him, me and Jin Kim. Do you know Jin Kim? The
yes,
designer?
well, I know of him. I don't know him. I want to get him on the podcast, though.
Yeah, he's
so
great.
Bad.
he's my friend. We were roommates, at the time. And we were both on Nick's team doing the Huaca. It was me, Jin Kim, and Nick. But then the story, the story, everything changed. The Roger was taken out, and everything. It then became The Emperor's New Groove. Yeah. But when it was still Kingdom, I did this this girl dancing with this guy, and Roger, he saw, said, "Hey, this is amazing. It's just a background character. Who's this guy?" They started learning about me, right?
Oh, nice.
And then what they told me is that they had a designer called Joe, my friend also, Joe Mosier. He's a great designer. He was the designer of the whole film. And they told me I was the only animator at the time who was able to understand Joe's designs and animate those designs, because they were very flat, very graphic.
Right.
Not very round, very graphic. It's a graphic statement. But I was able to take that in turn and animate. So they decided that I could work with Joe doing some model sheets also. So, and also they gave me all the scenes. And then after that scene with the girl, they had a female character who was a very important character at the time, like a love interest for people. So they had a supervising animator, but the guy was struggling. But Roger saw that my character was like, "Hey, let's put Sandro to help." So I was kind of also supervising of the girl, the main girl.
Wow. Very nice. Now, your experience in working with commercials, did that help you with your ability to process a flatter graphics style?
Probably. Yeah. I don't know. It just worked. Of course, it wasn't perfect, but somehow I understood the design sensibility than the others.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Then I worked with Joe Mosier, and Joe was the designer. So I was like kind of his assistant, because I would do my drawings for the model sheet and show him, and he would go over my drawings and show me where I could improve. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
I started learning design there because
Yeah.
Joe is funny. He's like, no, Sandro looks good. No, he doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to draw for you. He's like a very nice guy. And
Yeah.
no, looks great. He said, no, Joe, come on, just do something here. Okay, I'll do it. And then he would do it like, oh wow, it's just much better.
Yeah.
And I would learn by watching him draw the little changes, you know.
Yeah.
So that was great. Besides animating, I was also doing design work with Joe. So it was great to learn. He changed the whole thing and became the Emperor's New Groove, but they kept him as the lead.
Yeah. Yeah, that documentary is incredible to watch about the Emperor's. Sweatbox.
I think. Yeah. I was there.
Yeah, I mean, just so you can feel the angst from certain artists on it. You're like, oh, I really, man. It's set. When I first saw that film, I was working for a TV studio in Halifax, and we, on our lunch break, we went to watch it in the theater, and my comment coming out from it was like, wow, man, that film is like they just gave the animators a bunch of money and said, go make something cool and funny. I had no idea of how much of a struggle that movie was to make, and the different iterations that it was so carefully planned out that almost to the point where they didn't make it, you know? Yeah.
But you know, in the first version, Kingdom in the Sun, I remember I think I lost 100 feet of animation. I did so many scenes. I remember seeing some shots in color that was discarded. You're never gonna see those again. We've done so much work, Brian.
So you earn your credit on the film with your 100 feet, but it's all gone. Jeez, that's rough. That's really rough.
It was a tough time, but at the same time, we had so much fun working on it as animators. You know, we just had fun because the characters were fun, which is great. You know.
Yeah.
And I had a great time because they gave me. I had this girl character, right? But then when the story changes, she was gone, and they told me, Sandro, your character is cut, it's gone. But we want you to give you this other characters. And they were all background, secondary characters, but I had such a blast because each one is so different than the other. I did like the theme song guy is a singer, is a performer, right? Very flamboyant. And then I had the waitress. The waitress is just very subdued, it doesn't move much. What do you want? You know, it's totally different personality. And then I had the other guy who was when he's choosing the brides, the guy with the funny hat. He was very nervous. Oh, please don't kill me, you know.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So each one was so different, you know, than the other.
Yeah.
I had such a great time. You know?
Oh man, because I mean, a lot of when you're working on a feature film, you tend to get tagged to a specific character, and I would imagine you could get, because I have ADHD, so I know, like if I had been stuck on like I don't know, Kronk. It'd be really exciting at first, but then it'd be like, oh, I'm still working on Kronk, you know?
I know, yeah.
Yeah, but that's great. You got to hop around and really flex different muscles of acting, and that's really great. So
I did also the old man. He's like
where he goes groove. Yeah.
So I did. So each one's so different than the other. For me, it was like the best time ever.
So cool. And what's out there now that's getting you very inspired about animation? Or do you feel like 2D animation has had its heyday?
Well, no, of course, we had like a great time during those years. Yeah. It looks like it's coming back. You know, but it's coming back. There's some projects like I'm working on Space Jam sequel right now. That's been fun, and it's all full animation, funny with the Looney Tunes characters.
Yeah.
I worked on Klaus. Klaus was kind of fun, interesting. I know Sergio Pablo is developing a new film, hand drawn.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming back. You know, it might not be like as big as it used to, but you're gonna see a few films here and
Well,
there.
I mean, there are TV shows out there too that are taking it up a level, like Green Eggs and
exactly.
Ham.
Yeah.
And you know, there are a lot of artists who still don't want to let it disappear.
Yes.
And you know, and they fight for it to come back and show off this beautiful art form that is 2D animation.
Yeah.
And yeah, when Klaus came out, like that was sort of like the second coming of 2D animation, right? And then it came out, and then nothing for a while. It's just been like no big follow up to it, right? But that's part of the problem of 2D animation. It takes time, you know, and it costs money.
But it's funny. I've been like I never switched to CG animation. I never wanted to do it. At Disney, we had classes at the beginning when I was there, and I took a few classes. And I remember the first day or two, I was able to make the character walk and do something. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't that difficult. I just didn't enjoy the process, right?
Right.
So I understand that's mostly CG now, but I don't understand why not having more hand-drawn animation. I don't understand that.
I don't know.
Isn't it? You know?
Well, even the shows out there, the bulk of television shows are 2D animation, but they're not. They're 2D rigs, and they actually have bones in the character, and then you can swap it. Yeah, and you swap out hands or forearms or whatever to get different rotational values that have at some point been carefully in-betweened by somebody to like such micro nuances.
Yeah.
But it's like puppeteering versus hand-drawn animation, and for some productions. Now, you know, you're talking about Green Eggs and Ham where they're doing full-out roughs, and that's a different thing.
Like that.
Yeah. How have you taken to the new digital tools like the Wacom tablets and that type of thing versus paper?
Yeah. Of course, paper is always for me. It's number one. I really enjoyed the process of drawing paper. But when I went to DreamWorks to work on Me, My Shadow is a project that they canceled. They combined hand-drawn animation with CG. So it was the first time I was using the Cintiq for animation. They had their own software for animation, proprietary software.
Yeah.
So I start drawing with the Cintiq, animating with the Cintiq. It took me like a week, 1 week or two to get it.
Yeah.
To do my first scene. So it wasn't too bad. Today I mostly use digital.
Yeah.
Like Space Jam's all digital, the Toon Boom.
Well, I really enjoy working in TV Paint because it can have such a pencil feel to it with your brush selection, how you set it up. Some programs out there are vector based and the line is ugly.
Yeah.
So you don't enjoy roughing in it because it just looks like ink blotch, right? Like it's not
Toon
good.
Boom, for me, Toon Boom, it looks like you're drawing with a Sharpie, you know?
Yeah.
It's not the best, but
no, I mean, but I've worked with some people who are so talented with it, and it blows me away. I'm like, how can you get that kind of line flow out of such a limited, you know? But I mean, I guess that's the way most art forms are. You get people that can adapt to certain limitations and other people that struggle with it. So, but I'm always curious of people like yourself who have worked on all these big feature films through the 80s and that type of thing, how the transition to the digital tools went for you. Because I've talked to some people who just despise it, and then other people who fully embrace it and hardly ever draw on paper now by choice. So
I think for me, you have to take. I mean, if you don't do it, how can you continue working? Because I know I was working on this production, and I was doing the designs on paper, and for the first film was on. I did mostly on paper, scanned. They were happy, and the director was the guy, former Disney guy, so he was okay. Then the second film, he wasn't the director, but they had the same producer, and then they started doing the same thing on paper. And then they told me, "Sandro, can you do digitally? Because the producer prefers digital drawings."
Wow.
I mean, a drawing is a drawing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but that must have felt like, okay, he doesn't know what he's talking about then.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's just why don't you analyze the drawing, the character?
Right.
Analyze the way, I mean, the lines or whatever. But, so I started switching to digital. And today, most studios, they prefer digital because it's easily, you can change. Or animation, if you do animation digitally, there's no more scanning or paper, the cost of paper, that kind of thing. So you have to adapt. If you don't adapt,
working digitally, has it changed your use of timing charts?
No, for me it's the same process. Yeah. I don't use timelines, or I remember like sometimes I give classes to these students who are never animated before on paper or time chart. They started doing digitally from the beginning, and they use the timeline, and they have their keys there. For me, it's like, I mean, I don't understand this much. So for me, it doesn't work. I just do just as if it was paper.
Yeah.
I do my first key, and then my second one charted, do the in-betweens and breakdowns.
Yeah. Oh, so what's the future hold for you?
I'm doing Space Jam now, and hopefully I'll work on something else next month or a couple of months. Because I do design work too. I don't do only animation.
Yeah.
And the reason I do design is because I didn't want to do CG. I want to continue drawing because I love drawing. For me, it's not only the process of animating, but it's the drawing. I love it. I love drawing. Like I really love when I have a first pass approved, and then I just have to tie down. I love it because it's just the drawing. So I do lots of design work. So, and that's why I'm always working something. Yeah. And to be honest, I've been working. I mean, I never had a problem finding work in animation, in draw animation, either animating or doing design.
Yeah.
And you can do designs for CG movies too. I did animation for Leica for tests before they do their puppets. So there's always something you can do using traditional animation.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a film out there that you wish you had worked on?
Oh, many.
Yeah. Which one stands out the most to you?
I would have loved to work on, of course, Secret of NIMH would be amazing to have worked on this Secret of NIMH. But Iron Giant was the one. I did a little bit of with Duncan Studio. Brad Bird wanted 2 sequences again that he couldn't do it for first to be inserted for the new release. So I did a few shots, but it wasn't the original. It was like
yeah. I mean, it's cool that you got asked to do it, but I imagine for you you're like, well, it's not the original, but it's better than nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I have Mark Whiting coming on the podcast in a few weeks. Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I'll mention to him how Iron Giant was the one that got away from you.
Yeah, I was at Disney at the time. I remember going to see. It was like, wow, what a beautiful. I was even watching the animation much. I was into the story. I was like, wow, this is a great story because it was something different than the usual animated films.
Yeah,
the kind of stories, a story that he was telling was different.
Yeah, everything about it just is right on. The story, the designs, the overall art direction to it. It just, the acting of the giant was so
beautiful,
vulnerable. right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet powerful. At the I don't know. It really was a great film, and I couldn't believe how it sort of came out and didn't do well, and then only did well years later. You know. But I mean that happens a lot. There are so many cult classics that.
Sure.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Do you think in 2021 I might be able to have you back on for a part 2, and we can talk about specific films you worked on,
Sure.
and get into some of the production stories of both good, bad, the ugly, everything to really build that experience, because a lot of us have never experienced that. I never made it to the major leagues of Disney. My time at Disney was at Disney Interactive.
Right.
However, it felt like the major leagues. Like I really enjoyed my time there, and the amount of talented people. I love to hear the production stories about, so I was working with Bob and he couldn't get it done, and then we tried this and it caused a fight here, but in the end it ended up on screen. I love hearing about that stuff, because a lot of people think it's just it's so simple. They just sat down, drew it, and there it is on the screen. But there's so much more.
No, it's a struggle. One of the stories I can tell you is my first shot. My first shot that I did on Fantasia it didn't go very well, and I was like, oh, maybe this is it for me. I'll tell you that.
Well, let's save that for part 2.
Sure.
We'll wrap this one up now, and I'm so grateful you came on. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks for inviting me. And your podcast is one of the best for me. I love it.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot, because I'm super insecure about it.
No, you know why? Because you love animation, you understand animation. It's fun. It's you have good questions, and I love it.
Oh, great. Now I feel pressure. Okay, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Talk to you soon.
We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Get creative and flex imagination. Write a song, you might hear it on a station. Do a painting of some pigs in a pig pen, or be a stand-up comedian.